Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Amelia Anderson, and I am co-founder and president of AWAR. It's so wonderful to have you all joining us this morning if you're in Asia, or this evening if you happen to be in the West. It's wonderful to get together again, although virtually, but we're really excited about getting back together in person with all of you very, very soon. But for now, we have a very special conversation planned for you with some of the most inspiring women who are in aviation finance in Asia today. Super excited to present this conversation, this virtual fireside chat, and I know you guys will be very inspired, and we're all very lucky to hear these wonderful women and have them share their stories with us this evening or this morning. But first of all, let me say thank you, a special thanks to all of our AWAR sponsors. Many of you who are joining us today work for these companies. So if you see your company name there, thank you so much for your generous support of AWAR and our mission. We are so grateful for your support and really excited to be providing this important service to you. And we also, if you don't see your company's name there, please do reach out to us after the event. You can email us at info@awarglobal.com, and we would be happy to share with you details of how your company can become a sponsor as well. So very special thanks to all of our wonderful, wonderful sponsors. So now I'd like to, without further ado, turn to the conversation. To introduce our panelists, my fellow AWAR board member and our representative in Hong Kong, Danielle Roman, who is a partner at Morant Law Firm, is going to tell you a little bit more about this event, and she's going to introduce our panelists. So Danielle, over to you.
Thanks very much, Amelia, and good morning, everyone from Hong Kong. I feel like it's been years that we've been talking about breaking the glass ceiling for gender diversity in aviation. And I think some of the obstacles women have faced over the years, including bias and assumptions on their interests or their capabilities, lack of female role models. And most recently, there's been the pandemic, which of course has had an incredibly challenging impact for women who've been working. But I feel like we have come a long way. And today we're going to be speaking with some trailblazing women in the Asian aviation industry. These women, they serve as role models for all of us who come after them, and they're paving the way for tremendous change in the workplace for women in aviation. They're building their legacies by leading the way in Asia. And today they're going to be talking to us about their journey in aviation, the challenges they've faced, and they'll talk about mentors and breaking through the old boys club. So I'd now like to introduce your speakers for today. First is Haiyan Zheng, who's the Executive Vice President for Clover Aviation, which was formerly known as Ping An Leasing. She joined in 2015 and is responsible for their aircraft acquisition and trading worldwide. Before this, she spent 14 years at H&A Group, where she served as the Senior Manager of Aircraft Aviation. She also held the position of Aircraft Type Certificate Instructor in H&A's Aircraft Maintenance Department. She holds a master's degree in aircraft design engineering from Northwest Polytechnic University in Haiyan. Our next panelist is Muisin, who was recently appointed as the head of Treasury at BOC Aviation, where she oversees all of their Treasury functions. Prior to this, she was an executive vice president and deputy head of aircraft sales at BOC Aviation, responsible for their aircraft sales in the Asia Pacific region, with 16 years of covering both equity investors and aircraft financiers. And before BOC Aviation, she was an investment banker. She holds an accountancy degree and is a CFA charter holder. And our next panelist is Mary Yamazaki, who is general manager of BOT Lease and in charge of the aviation finance department, where she provides financing to global airlines and leasing companies. She began her career on the regular career track at Oryx Corporation and has been a leading figure in the development of career women in the Japanese leasing and finance industry. Mary's one of the few Japanese female professionals who has had extensive experience in aviation finance at Oryx, at Kasib in Tokyo, and at West LB in Tokyo. And finally, your moderator for today is Olivia Matsushita, who's a finance partner in Pilsbury's Tokyo office and a member of their asset finance team. Olivia has been resident in the Japanese market for several years, and she represents a global clientele, including major trading houses, sponsors, ECAs, and financial institutions, as well as leasing companies, operators, investors, and manufacturers on their cross-border asset-backed finance transactions, energy-related projects, and M&A. Olivia is an English and Australian qualified solicitor. During the conversation, I would invite you to write questions in the chat function, to take this opportunity to ask as much as you would like from these leaders in aviation. I'm now going to pass over to your moderator, Olivia.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Danielle. Just before we go live, I'd also like to remind our audience, please, don't forget to enter your questions into the chat box. All questions are most welcome, and we will pick these up at the end of the event. So Yamazaki-san, thank you for being with us today. You are one of the most senior Japanese women in the aviation finance sector, and I know our audience would be very interested to hear about your career journey. How is it that you got started in aviation as a woman in a very much male-dominated industry and culture?
I joined the Oryx Corporation as a full-fledged carrier track employee, as called in Japanese, Sogoshoku. I started to work in the domestic sales department at Oryx first. As you may know, Japanese company often move young employee from one department to another for purpose of employee development. I was no exception to that rule, so I transferred from the domestic sales department to the international finance department, and then I was transferred from finance department to the aircraft business department. I really enjoyed working in the aircraft business department, but transferred again. Then I thought, remaining in the Japanese company as it is, I would be surely transferred again and again. Then I decided to change jobs because I would like to determine my career on my own, rather than have it determined the human resources department. That is my aviation story. Then I think I was lucky because Oryx is a Japanese company, but little gender discrimination, and the French bank and the German bank, where I subsequently worked, also less gender discrimination, especially among expert staff. So I think the fact I was the not always, but nearly always only woman at the meeting when I was a little bit younger than current I am now. But in the meeting, I was the only woman. That was very commonplace for me. So I found no longer a challenge or even strange. But for the sake of younger generation, I have tried to keep working. So even if I could not be a perfect role model for working woman, but I would like to be a very small light at the roadside. So, who is that? Oh, Miss Yamazaki. If she can do, I'm sure I can do. I would like younger generation working woman to think so. So I would like to be in the market.
Yamazaki. It can't have been an easy decision, taking charge and creating your own fate like that. But what a decision it's been for you. And look at where you are today. I think for our audience, taking that fate into your own hands, not being afraid to do so, and to really follow the words of wisdom of Yamazaki-san is a critical piece of advice for some of our younger listeners there. So Thank you very much for that, candid feedback. Haiyan, good morning to you, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm glad to join this panel discussion.
Thank you. So your role with Clover Aviation has you navigating multiple cultures: China, where Clover is based, Hong Kong, where I understand you currently live, and Japan, where you've just opened a major new office. On top of that, your work has you involved in transactions all over the globe. We would really, really love to hear about your story too. How have you built a successful career? And what have you learned about leadership across, such a diverse range of cultures there?
Yeah, thanks, Olivia. You are correct. Clover currently has 3 offices globally: Hong Kong, Dublin, and Tokyo. We opened our Tokyo office in 2020. A Hong Kong office 2020 and Tokyo office 2021 during pandemic. Here, I also want to have a small advertisement. We are recruiting the talents for the marketing role in Tokyo and Hong Kong. So if any of the audience has interest, please visit our website or homepage via LinkedIn. About my career, it's quite a simple one. Currently, I'm responsible for airline marketing and trading for Clover. When Clover was still known as Pittman 2 years ago, I was the head of trading. And I traveled to Japan almost once a month. And that was the time that I got to know Olivia yourself and also Yamazaki-san. And I'm sure that Muisin frequently traveled to Japan as well. So I did meet him in front of my client office building. Yeah, this is my career. And before that, I worked for H1A Group for multiple functions like fleet planning, aircraft acquisition, configuration selection, and even business jet acquisition. I also worked as the aircraft type certificate instructor and engineer. And my major in university is aircraft structure design. And a funny story about why I chose the major in university is because of an advertisement. It was an advertisement of a shampoo. And the slogan in this advertising is, "Who said the females are not able to choose aircraft engineering?" And the model just tossed her hair in front of the engine. So many years later, I learned aviation, and I understood that losing your long hair in front of an aircraft is very dangerous. But when I look back, I think one thing is lucky for me is that I have been in an environment where I was trusted to do some challenging work, especially considering my capability then. For example, I was appointed suddenly to resolve one aircraft delay issue, a VIP aircraft delay issue with an outfit facility in Europe, when I still had no experience in VIP aircraft at all. And my supervisor told me that you will represent the senior level to resolve this issue. And really, I don't know how can I have the courage to take the flight and jump into the negotiation room. But the result was not bad. And I really learned a lot. But the most important thing is that I accumulated the confidence and the courage that I need to cope with challenges. And I also encourage people to really take the challenge. But how you can get the trust of your supervisor is also important. I think the key factor for myself is I really working very hard, and my supervisors think that I'm reliable to take the challenge. That is very important to my career. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you, Haiyan. That certainly is a really inspiring story, and you know, what creative advertising for the shampoo. I hope that shampoo still exists.
Yeah, it's still there. It's not a very famous one, but a lot of people know that.
That's fantastic. I hope that you know, encourages or does not at least discourage women with long hair to enter our industry. You know, Haiyan, I think you've really summed it up nicely. I think, you know, you need to take charge of your own destiny, step up to each and every challenge, and enjoy those challenges. I think that's really important on the path to leadership. I think, you know, the challenges, you know, can be stressful, but I think in my personal experience, you know, the more you step up to those challenges, the more rewarding your career can be. So really, thank you, Haiyan, for that. Muisin, good morning to you too, and thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Olivia, and everybody else.
And you know, Muisin, we've heard a lot about the importance of mentors for women who aspire to leadership positions. You know, have there been mentors, men or women, who have helped you along the way?
Yes, absolutely. However, there has not been any formal established kind of mentor-mentee kind of relationships. However, I have received a lot of encouragement and support from direct bosses and senior management. One thing which I appreciated was none of them has ever told me that, you know, I can only do this or I cannot do this. I won't be able to achieve this because of my gender. There have also been opportunities for me to lead in assignments or projects, and then also to work directly with the senior management. Two projects, for example, that I was involved in last year where I team led, and one was a transaction related deal, and one was an IT application project. One of them was assigned to me, and one of them was actually something that I volunteered to take on and to develop. So on the IT project that I did, I previously had no IT experience whatsoever, but after, you know, I was prepared to take on the challenge, and it was a very interesting project. And when it was launched, it was very fulfilling. But the other thing that I wanted to share was also that I think network building is very important. I have a network of both men and women, colleagues and friends, industry friends as well. And they have helped me over the years whenever I needed advice, whether it's work related or career related. They've all helped me in different ways.
Understood. Thank you, Muisin. And so based on your experience, you know, what advice would you give to our listeners, both men and women, who would like to sort of try to establish those sorts of meaningful mentor or mentee relationships?
I think, you know, first of all, I think do not be afraid to ask and have an open discussion. Communication is very important. Establishing mutual understanding and expectation is very important for a mentor and mentee kind of relationship. It is also important, you know, other than that, to also build networks around you with both men and women. For women, I think especially find like-minded women and go with the journey with you, and then support other women around you too. So I think this is what I will, you know, share.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Muisin. I think networking is so important, even regardless of gender. You know, your fate is really up to you. It's in your own hands. So I think, you know, these are really good pieces of advice for our audience, you know, both men and women. So here's a question for both Yamazaki-san and Muisin. So we use the term male allyship to describe actions or attitudes that men can take to help their female colleagues. So for example, they might include women in informal information loops. They might help us break through the old boys club. They might help women achieve, greater visibility for their ideas, or even help them to land assignments on, high-profile transactions. Well, what are some specific suggestions you could make for men who want to be effective allies for their female colleagues? I'll turn it to you, Yamazaki-san, first of all.
I think I would like to say to that person that you don't have to need so enthusiastic about being mentor, but important is pay attention to them. Pay attention to them by asking, say, how are you doing, or sending an email with useful information, and just tell them you are always available for advice if they need it. I think that attitude is important.
Thank you. Muisin, would you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely agree, Yamazaki-san. Such efforts need not be deliberate, as you mentioned, just how can I help you? Or, let me know if there's anything we can do. It's always appreciated. Some suggestions, however, could be for them to observe, for the men to really observe and listen. And, if they should see any such situations of biases, please call out such biases. I mean, we all have unconscious biases within us. So if you do observe and, come across a situation, please do call them out. Obviously, the other thing is level the playing field and advocate the change. I think they can also make diversity a personal and corporate priority and objective. So I think there are many ways that men can play a part for advancing women in careers.
Thank you, Muisin. I would definitely agree with all of that. I wonder, Haiyan, if you have any comments on male allyship.
I would agree with them. I think it's I have the experience that actually the senior people are really want to help if you ask the help. And if you ask the support, you will get the support. And you also think that what I can bring as a young generation to give to your supervisor, I think they will appreciate our inputs and our efforts as well.
Thank you. Yeah, these are really, really good practical tips, I think, from all of our panelists and for our male members in the audience today. Speaking from personal experience, this really holds true for me too, where a particular male mentor was very much instrumental in supporting my promotion to partnership in an international law firm. So I think our male allies really deserve a round of applause for the roles that they play. So let me come back to Haiyan. As women, in addition to managing our careers, we are often juggling many, many tasks, including family. Also, we are, juggling caregiving for aging parents in some cases. And sometimes this can lead to feelings of being overwhelmed or inadequate. Mental or physical health can sometimes suffer. Given the 24/7 demands of your career, what support structure do you rely on to help manage these responsibilities? And what are the most important things women can do and say ask their partners to do to stay mentally and physically healthy and to avoid those feelings of guilt or inadequacy?
Yes, thanks, Olivia. Actually, I am a mother of 2 children, and one is 16 and one is 6. About the balance, about the family and the career, unfortunately, my answer might disappoint people. I cannot have a very good balance between my job and my family. People only have 24 hours. And for the global market, I have to communicate with my team and also the client in different time zone. So maybe I can have some share some tips. One tip is to keep a mental and physical healthy life. No smoke, no drink, no heavy drink. And I also make myself believe that even though I didn't teach anything to my children, but I did a good model for them. And they know that we need to work hard, study hard, and learn from the excellent people surrounding us. And I also have a weekly meeting with my family to discuss what happened last week and the plan for the upcoming week. For example, when we will go to McDonald's together, how we prepare the birthday celebration and exam arrangement. I found it is helpful. And sometimes if we cannot satisfy ourselves with the balance between work and family, I suggest just living with it. I can guarantee that females have done a better job than majority of the males anyway in this regard. Yeah, thank you.
Indeed, thank you, Haiyan. I like the weekly meeting idea and the outside venue. So there's no cooking, and I have a 2-year-old, and I think she would definitely vote for an outside venue like McDonald's over anything that I could cook for her. So I'm going to make that a change in my household from today. So thank you for that. Yeah, I might ask Muisin, do you have family responsibilities too, and what are some of the things that you've found helped you juggle those responsibilities along with a very successful career?
I think, Olivia, I think the whole ecosystem has to, contribute as well. Not just, I think, your immediate spouse or partner and the family members. I think in terms of government support, how the government can have policies that support, while trying to balance the birth rate, in the country, also to support in terms of giving both male and female workers parental leave, when there's a new baby. So in this regard, Singapore has kind of progressed and provided this kind of policies where in the past, our male colleagues do not get any parental leave, but now they do. So they can help out with the family, with the babies and kids as well. And then the other thing I think is also because of the labor policies that we have in Singapore, and I'm not sure in Japan, that is also easily available. But here, for example, we can get help, domestic help, from our neighboring countries fairly easy as well. So, most families, if they can afford it, they will have a domestic helper to stay with them, or stay-in helper, or even a part-time helper to come in to kind of help out with their household chores and the babysitting and all that. Now, the other thing I find that obviously this is more an Asian culture kind of thing. Grandparents tend to like to get involved in taking care of grandchildren. So if you do have parent support and parents-in-law support, that will, I think, at least a lot of my female colleagues have appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. I'm still trying to encourage my husband's grandparents to look after my 2-year-old, but they don't have enough confidence right now. But I'm working on it. I think that's great advice, and we can see now in the workplace things are starting to change, and even organizations that I wouldn't have expected to, introduce paternity leave in Japan, have already, done that. And I think, little by little, we're starting to see, positive change. And yeah, I'm curious, Yamazaki-san, I mean, you're working for a Japanese company. What is the, the flexible work schedule like in your organization? Is there paternity leave for male colleagues? What's it like for you?
As you know, Japanese society is very male dominant, but recently I think the situation is fairly better than previously. So, for example, this year, one male team member will take a paternity leave for his second child.
Right.
And yeah, of course, I accept that offer, or not offer, that I accept that, and human resources recommend him to take that. So Japanese society is changed, and thanks to Corona, today I'm working from home. So working from home is better to join the family work for not only women but also male employee. So Japanese society or Japanese government or Japanese company changing gradually. But I think that is a good change.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at another extreme, my husband in particular works for a Swedish company, and males are entitled to, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 465 days paternity leave, and that can be taken anywhere from age 0 through to age 8 at different times. And so it's the norm in his company for men to take time off. And yeah, I mean, what a system the Swedish have. It's great to compare and to see positive change in a country like Japan, where it hasn't always been like this. It's really nice to see clients and friends being able to look after their children, to have that experience with them when they're young and when they're growing up, and to create that sort of fatherly bond that might not have been there in the past in Japan. So yeah, I think these sort of flexible work schedules offer a game changer for women, particularly in Asia and particularly in Japan. So that's really nice to see. So thank you. I guess one other question I have is how do what are some ways that we as females can help our younger colleagues rise to leadership positions? What are some of the things that we can do to be supportive of younger women in our organizations? Yamazaki-san, maybe I'll throw that out to you first.
My advice to younger generation. Yeah, my advice to younger generation is, if you are approached for advancement or how can I say, promotion, please take it, and please do not hesitate to accept it. I think normally Japanese women hesitate to accept the promotion, even promotion, or can I do, or lots of work or hard work, but please don't hesitate to take it. I think although you will have more responsibility, but you will have more discretion, and I believe that person who are one of the candidate of that promotion is fully qualified. So I think that you will enjoy that situation, and you feel being happy with high title or high salary, or and high good information and good work. I think that is my advice.
I very much like your get-go attitude, Yamazaki-san. Thank you. Haiyan, what do you think of that? What are things that you do in Clover to help your younger female colleagues?
Yeah, actually, in my team, there are male and females, and even during COVID situation, I really find that the female sales is even braver than some males. They travel a lot and quarantine for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and 6 weeks, just because of their business. Yes, they really did a good job, and I will definitely let her know that you will have the equal opportunity as the other people. Just let them have a firm answer that you will have the equal opportunity is very important.
So you are, I guess, regularly giving positive feedback and encouragement to those younger women, and I guess, acknowledging their contributions. It's definitely not easy to travel even during, the pandemic, when you've got, a young family or you've got aging parents. So it really does show, a strong commitment to the organization, and to, wanting to advance your own career. So, I think kudos to those ladies in Clover. And Muisin, I might ask the same to you if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm happy to add that, I think a general advice is you are your only limit. Be brave and great things are possible. Have the courage to take on challenges and opportunities when they come your way. I think what Yamazaki-san said, I really echo that. If there's an opportunity to be promoted, please take it. Step up to it. Show that you can. And the other more practical ways I think I can help with my female colleagues that I work with is, I have lunches with them regularly, even a coffee chat, tea chat, if they are given an opportunity to say, transfer to a different department, that kind of conversation, if they needed advice on what I think about it, I'm happy to share. And, given that I've been here so many years, and at least I'll be able to share what they should take note of and, think about whether they want to embark on something new. That's all I have.
No, very important, words there. I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important to, to reach out to younger colleagues, be it male or female. There are so many things we can do to encourage the younger generation, coming up through the ranks, to not to be afraid to accept challenges, to ask for advice, ask for guidance, ask for help. And I really like the, the mentorship that you've described, and, just getting together from time to time and really just, making yourself available. It's never easy to make yourself available, when you're working 24/7, you've got family commitments. It is difficult, but I think the responsibility falls on us as women in leadership positions to really make the time, and to help have our male colleagues as well support that role too. I think it applies equally to men as it does to women. So yeah, I mean, Yamazaki-san, just coming back to you, I think if you could describe in very simple terms, what do you think the keys are to a women's success in our industry?
Oh, key to success. Yeah, I think key to success in not only aviation but in business life is being patient and being positive. It's not always sunny days in business life or career life. So being patient and being patient but positive is very important, I think.
Absolutely. I think patience is a virtue. Change definitely takes time when it comes to, women and their careers. And, I think we need to respect that and actually make it easy for management to recognize female talent. And to do that, you have to take the initiative. You can't be a shadow in the room. So I think you mentioned earlier, Yamazaki-san, you're a roadside lantern and a shining light for our listeners. And I really do think that holds true. I think Haiyan, if you had to describe the key to success for a female colleague's career, in very simple terms, what would you say?
I would say communicate more with your supervisor and the colleagues, and believe that you can get the support from them. That is very important. And that is something I really did not so good. So I hope people can do better than myself.
I'm sure that's not the case, Haiyan. Thank you for your very humble comment. And Muisin, I would turn it to you as well. Keys to success. I think you mentioned earlier, but if you had to describe it very simply, what would be the one thing that would sort of unlock potential path to leadership for women?
I think just to add to what I've already said, in addition to have the courage and be brave, be true to yourself, obviously being credible, you earn the respect, and certainly will get you the acknowledgement from your seniors and bosses.
Thank you, Muisin. I would definitely agree with that. These are all words of wisdom from our panelists today. Yamazaki-san, Haiyan, Muisin, you're very, very busy ladies, and I know the audience has highly appreciated your candidacy today. There's been plenty of tips, words of wisdom, to take away from today's session. So on behalf of AWAR, the sponsors, and all of our men and women in the audience today, I do thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. And I'm looking to Amelia, because I think we have some very interesting questions from the audience today.
Yes, and let me add my thanks to the panel for their fantastic insights and really excellent advice, and being vulnerable and opening up and sharing with all of us their own experiences. And I think many of the themes that came through are really, really important. Be true to yourself, have confidence in yourself, don't turn down opportunities when they come your way. All of those are really, really important. And one thing that Haiyan said, which I as a working mother also can relate to, you can't be everywhere. You can't be in all places at all times. And you only have 24 hours in the day. So you do the best that you can and utilize help where you have it, and organize. And I think, as she said, she's a role model for her children. And that's something that is really, really important for them for the future. But we do have some questions from our audience. So let me start. And let's see. So the first question is, do you feel that generally females progress slower in their careers compared to male peers? And if yes, what do you think the roadblocks are, and how can we do better? And I want to ask the panel to address that question, but I would just like to comment on it myself first. Certainly, we absolutely do see that. And of course, each of the countries that are represented by our panel today are unique and different, and distinct from each other, and distinct from where I am in the US. But certainly one thing that is common that we see across many countries and many cultures is that women, especially women who do start families, tend to find themselves, or can tend to find themselves, sort of losing ground to their male peers. But there are things that we can do to change that. And one of the most important things, and this is something also that our panelists mentioned, is communicating with your supervisor. You know, oftentimes, if you have a male supervisor, he might be trying to guess, or even a female supervisor, but, you know, might be trying to guess and may assume that you don't want to spend as much time working or take an international assignment or travel if you have small children at home, or even if you have an aging parent that you're caring for, or even if you're just a married woman. And it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our supervisors know that, you know, we do want, if you want more responsibility and you want to be considered for assignments that are very challenging, you must make sure that they know that, because they can't read our minds. And, you know, one of the things that is beginning to really take hold in a lot of law firms in particular, and Olivia, you can probably comment on this, is sort of what's called a ramping down and ramping up connected to maternity. So if someone is taking maternity leave, then the company oftentimes will have programs or schedules or guidelines to help her to ramp down her workload as she's preparing for maternity leave. But importantly, we have to make sure that there's a place and a way for her to ramp back up when she returns, so that she can get back on the fast track if that's what she desires. So that's my comment on that question. And I'd like to ask, you know, Olivia and the panelists to as well comment on that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Amelia. I think law firms have probably done a slightly better job at sort of advancing women. It does obviously depend on the individual. And I think, as we've discussed today, you know, if the individual isn't sort of highly motivated, it's not necessarily a result of the organization. I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, the sort of seize the day, you know, create your own fate. You know, you've got to work really hard. I think in my organization in particular, I would say, you know, there are probably less women in management positions, but that's not necessarily a reflection of, you know, how we run the organization. It's just some individuals don't want, you know, leadership positions for whatever reason. You know, they're on a different track. So I think it sort of comes down to the individual at the end of the day. You know, I think in my, for example, my university, there were more women graduating from law school than men, and that remains the case today. So, you know, I do think, you know, women are really taking charge now, and yeah, I'd be interested to hear from our panelists as well. Muisin, what would you say to that? Do you feel that females are progressing slower, and if so, why? Or perhaps, you know, they're on a par with the men in your organization?
Okay, in general, in Singapore, I don't think so. I think, as Amelia has mentioned earlier, a lot to do with personal choices as well when they start a family, rather than, you know, they're not being recognized and the opportunity is not presented to them. I think in Singapore, we do have equal opportunities for education and equal opportunities for career. Now, coming back to aviation, however, being in a leasing company, in a very male-dominated industry. When I first joined, at least 16 years ago, I wondered if I joined the wrong industry, when in the first conference that I attended, it was all men in black or gray suits, or black or dark blue suits. There was hardly any female, especially in the US conferences. But these days, I've seen a lot more female people coming into the industry, and that's great to see. And I think it's not really because they don't have the opportunity. It's just that maybe engineering or aviation as an education course, it's more, men prefer aeroplanes than women. I think that's something that I didn't join because of the aeroplanes. I joined because of my finance background, to be honest. But so there are very few people like as passionate with engineering and aircraft like Haiyan, but I think it's the minority rather than the majority for the aircraft aviation business. And then again, within the aviation business, and I started as a frontline sales transactor career. So in that way, I'm not looking for, if you choose to be a transactor, your career path could be different from if you choose to be a manager and eventually a leader. So I was a transactor for many years, but it didn't, as long as I do my deals, fulfill my KPIs, I get my promotion and I get my reward. And I feel very satisfied as well, very fulfilling career. But up to a point, if you have to look at your career and decide if you want to continue being a transactor or move towards the other path to being a manager and to coach younger people to become transactors, then that's a different path. And then you have to start building different skill sets and knowledge to do that. I think it's very different. And I've decided to do that after 15 years or so. And it's a new path for me. And I'm looking forward to working with my new team. And obviously there's a lot I have to learn as well. And it's a very different skill set. So I don't really see any slowdown or discrimination, at least from where I am based.
Thank you, Muisin. Very interesting. Interesting change of career path. Very exciting for you, and congratulations from all of us on your promotion. And we watch with interest. Your even greater success. As you start that new role. And Haiyan, I think you may have some comment on this too. So please let us know if you've got some views on whether you think females are progressing a little bit more slowly in your organization, or if that's not the case.
Yeah, actually, there are different kinds of discrimination. There are gender discrimination, also like appearance discrimination. Lots of kind of things you wouldn't know in what kind of aspect you were discriminated. So I chose to ignore those kind of discrimination. Just to do whatever you can do to prove yourself, and then just leave it with the result. So you should have a strong heart to accept yourself, to accept the result. If you already do your best, then whatever the result is, and no need to think about it is because of discrimination or because of whatever, is because of relationship, because of whatever reasons. Don't think too much about that. It's wasting your time. You just focus on whatever you can do. I think because of I am a mother, so a lot of things I need to do. So I don't need to, I have no time to think too much about those things I cannot control. I just work hard to whatever I can do.
Thank you, Haiyan. I think that applies to all of us. If there is a spare moment in the day, which often is not the case, then it's definitely, there's no point, thinking about those types of discrimination. Just get on with it. That's how you've sort of you've carved out your own success in your career in doing so. So I'm just looking at the chat box, Amelia. There is one other question in here that looks very interesting. Do you think we have time?
I think we can quickly take it. Go ahead, Olivia, if you can see it.
Yeah, so there's a question here. So gender discrimination can come in a subtle way. Can we share one encounter of subtle gender discrimination, if any, in our careers and how we overcame it? So just an example of a very subtle discrimination. Muisin, have you come across anything along the way?
Nothing that comes to mind. Obviously, sometimes I don't even know, if he's not entertaining me, or if, taking my calls is because of discrimination or otherwise, or really he's genuinely busy. But I think one thing I want to share is there are unconscious biases within ourselves. Just want to show an anecdote is that a younger female colleague came up to me, and she was offered opportunity to do a revenue role from a middle office role in China. And the first thing she said was, "Can I have a chat with you?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Do you think as a woman I will be disadvantaged in doing sales in China?" That caught me aback. I was like, "Why do you even think that? In China, of all places? No. Go for it. I mean, you are only your own limit. If you think that, half the battle is lost." So I'm a bit disheartened when I heard that, but I like to encourage everyone on the panel who joined. Don't think that. Don't as Haiyan say, don't even have that in your head. Okay. Yeah, that's all I have.
No, thank you, Muisin. I think that's extremely good advice. And thank you to all of our esteemed panelists today. We are sort of coming up on midday in Asia here. So I'd just like to thank you again for your time, your candidacy, and also to the audience. These are great questions, and I hope we've managed to answer most of them within the time frame we've had. So thank you very much, and thank you to Amelia and team for pulling together this very interesting fireside chat for us, and very much look forward to the next event, which hopefully will all be in person.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
I should hand over now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if possible, I would like to wrap it up. Again, thank you all for our esteemed panelists for joining us. I love the insights and especially the excellent advice on the key ingredients for a successful career. I feel inspired to move mountains, same way as our panelists have done in their careers. I also like to thank our sponsors. Without them, none of this would be possible. And as Olivia kind of started to talk about perhaps having in-person events, I like to point out to 2 events that will be happening actually the same time in Dublin, or the same day. On Tuesday, May 10th, there are going to be 2 AWAR in-person events. So we're excited to reconnect with everybody who will be based in Dublin for that week. First event is a leaders luncheon who's going to take place at Arthur Cox offices. That would be at 12:30 start time till 2 p.m. Again on Tuesday, May 10th. And then the same evening at 5 p.m. we will start a joint event with Propel Her, cocktails as well as panel discussions, and that is open to everybody who will be there. So out of our guests here, in case you happen to be in Dublin and you like to attend these events, if there's space, we'll be happy to have you. If you need more information, if you don't have it, please email us. That is at info@awarglobal.com.
and we will happy to provide you more details. And then lastly, want to thank to our participants providing insightful questions and being interested in our event. I hope you enjoyed this session and look forward to seeing you in person at our next event. Thank you very much.